Okay, so today we're going to work on our mixing color using our primary colors. So it's our full primary palette. And I'm going to lay out the colors. Start off with laying out my white. And I usually like to put it up here in the corner. And then I lay out my paints where I want to place them before I actually squeeze the paint out. So this is the order I'm going to have them in. And remember, this is a primary palette, so there are no secondary colors in here. It's just primary colors. Our lemon yellow, which is our cool yellow. Our cad yellow medium, which is pretty warm, looks a little bit more like orange. You want to get the caps back on. Here's our cad red light, which is a little light warm red. If you don't have this, this is okay. That's okay. You can work with the other reds that you have. This is the cad red medium. So just like these two are, this is the lemon yellow and the medium. This is the cad red light and this cad red medium. You can see that one is definitely lighter than the other. And if you have quinacridone red, I would put it right in here. And I have a quinacridone rose color. Then we have our alizarin crimson, which is a darker red. I'm going to put it right there. This is our ultramarine blue, staple of every palette. Right there. Cerulean blue, which is a nice lighter blue, a little bit gray. And our phthalo blue green shade, which is a blue that tends towards green. And then we have our Mars Ivory Black. So I'm going to put that down here. You'll notice that my palette has a piece of gray paper underneath it. This is the glass palette. And there's a piece of gray paper underneath it. Sometimes I work on white underneath, and sometimes I work on gray underneath. Now I'm going to squeeze out just a little bit of white in front of each color. And this is to tint out the colors, as I showed you in the palette mixing demo. I have a variety of palette knives here. So take a little bit of color, kind of mix it in there so I can see what it tints out like. That the white is not only lightening the color, it cools it down just a little bit. So the titanium white is a cool yellow, or it's a cool white, so not only does it lighten the color, it neutralizes it and cools it just a little bit. By doing this, you can see how strong the colors are. You get an idea of how they're going to mix with each other. Just don't want to take too much. Just add a little bit. This is a quinacridone color here, and they are very bright. This is our alizarin crimson. That's our deeper red. Also more cool temperature-wise. It's our ultramarine blue, which is, it's a blue that looks pretty strong, but it's not that strong in terms of tinting. The cerulean blue, you can see this is just slightly gray-green here. Also not a very strong color. And then the phthalo blue, which is a very strong color. So a little bit of this. A little bit of phthalo can go a long way. And you can see there how it tends towards green. So I'll clean off my knife between mixtures. So I have my white and I have my black in here. I'm going to come in here, add the black, and mix our middle gray. So you can see how the gray now tends to merge into the paper that's underneath, the gray color. And a lot of people do prefer to work on a gray tone for the palette. And I think it depends on what it is that you're doing. If I were doing glazing, a different technique of painting, I would not use a gray undertone. You can check that according to our grayscale key card here. This is a little warmer, so the gray is a little bit cooler here. And you can also see how these line up in terms of value. Where do these colors come in terms of value? And the tints, you know. You can see how the yellows are really pretty light. This is a very valuable tool. You can judge your values, the colors that you look at, judge the values. The key, these little keys here are for you to hold it up and compare the value versus what it is that you're seeing, whether it's the paint, whether it's the canvas surface, whether it's the object that you're looking at. So these, I think, are very handy. I like all of my students to have these key cards. Now put that over here on the palette, or on the easel. So now we have our palette laid out. This is our liquid, and I'm going to squeeze a little bit out of it, but I'm not going to use it right in the beginning. So we'll go back and squeeze out some liquid. And I'm going to put that off to the side over here. I won't use it right away. All right, so over here, you can see I have a range of brushes. And when I start, I generally start with my big bristle brushes just to block in the piece. I have one to block in the tone, smaller one just to draw it in. And I think even a smaller one. This one has been worn down over the years, so it looks very pointy. But when they're new, they're more rounded. All right, so when we look at our still life, we are going to paint color, and our objective here is to mix the color and to match what we see. So there are some colors that are that relate very well to the colors here. There are other colors, in particular the greens, the purples, the oranges, that have to be mixed. And so the key is to figure out how to mix those colors from these colors. So first thing I'm going to do, though, is to draw in the composition on the surface here on my canvas panel. So I'm going to take first this and take my black here, mix a little bit of gray with it. I have a gray tone surface on my canvas panel, and I want to, decide what it is that I'm going to paint here. In looking at this, if I painted everything, it would be a very small shapes. So if I paint some of it, I can get larger shapes in here. So I have to decide what it is, where I'm going to focus on my painting here. I think I want to get enough of it in so that there's a good mix. If I say that purple vase is over here, I have to judge the negative space. That red vase is over here. Green vase would be right about there. So here I'm able to get the green, the purple, and maybe the orange in up here, and then I have some objects down here at the bottom. There's also some drapery in there with stripes, and the stripes help you to see how the form turns around. So the drapery is pink and gray, and we'll see how well we can match those colors. The gray is not too hard, it's a middle gray. And the pink varies depending on the light hitting it. Let's see, so let's continue drawing this in. You see everything as simple shapes right now. So see this vase, I look at it first as a sphere down here, and then connect the top to that. We'll judge the negative space between this object and this object. And they're sitting on the same baseline, pretty much. One of the tricks to think about when you're drawing is to draw things as if they're transparent and you can see through them, so you can figure out the spacing, the perspective, and how everything just fits together. So if I place those blocks there, and I judge the negative space between here and here, the shape of that purple vase here. And then the orange coffee cup that comes in off the side here. And it's sitting on a little yellow stool here, so place that. Right now, what I'm doing is just placing the objects. I'm not drawing them in any detail. I'm going to come back later and go for more accuracy later. So we have a little flower in here and some leaves there. We have some flowers going up over here. And here's the corner of the block, right about there. There's a drapery fold. So you can see how some of the objects are going off the edge here, so I can get some of this up here. And if I were to draw everything, it would make it much smaller. So here's a drapery fold. There's our drapery that way. So I'm going to come back in here and make some of these marks darker now. So in the beginning I make them light so I can move them around, change my mind. Indicating where those stripes are. See, I would actually bring my vase down. I have it up a little bit high. Actually, the block can go up higher. Move those blocks up a little bit higher here. Bring my vase down just a little bit more here. So I'm just going to block in, take my larger brush, block in some shadow tones. Loosely so I know where the patterns of light and shadow are. Over here here, shadow under here. And I have the inside of the pail looking at me right out here. And we have a shadow coming down over here of stripe of the fabric as well as shadow. And over here, purple base is fairly dark. There's a shadow in the drapery right there. All right, so when I'm looking at our colors, we have red and green, and we have orange and purple and yellow. So purple and yellow are complementary colors. Red and green are complementary colors. We have some green over here for a little red block that is a nice placement between green, red, green. And we have purple, yellow. Down here is a purple ball. And this has some purple stripes in it. So we have a little complementary balance going on here and complementary balance going on here. And then our flower has red and green too. So what I'm going to do is just continue blocking in. Not everything is going to be in the painting. There's a little bit of shadow right in here. Actually, I still have to move that over. The more you do this, the more you see your drawing mistakes. So change that, move this block over like this. Another thing to remember when you're painting at an easel is that every time you move your head or move your body, you change your angle of view. So it's very important to make sure you're getting back into the same location. Move this up just a little bit higher. So I'll make this just a little bit darker so it's easier for you to see. It looks very rough, but it's a pretty good blueprint for where I want to go. And I can adjust things as I go along. Change the shape of that a little bit there. We have a little orange piece of paper coming out of there, paper curl. And our drapery fold goes like that. And we have our stripes that come down like that over here. Now you could draw this out with your vine charcoal and then come over it with paint. Or you can draw it straight in with the paint. This is going off the edge. We have our fold right there. Angle of our drapery right there. So in terms of composition, there are things that are going off the edge here, but let's look at the way the eye moves around it. So we have nice diagonal lines with this drapery stripes, and the curve of the forms keep moving you around the composition. So it doesn't matter if everything's going off the edge down here, as long as our eye keeps moving around in a good manner. And we'll know more about that when we get it painted in.